It is now time for our weekly political segment, Texas Face Off. So joining me this morning is Matt Makoviak, who owns the Potomac Strategy Group, and he's also the chairman of the Travis County Republican Party. We've also got Ed Espinoza, executive director of Progress Texas. Good morning to you both.
Good to be here. Morning.
So I think the big news that came out just yesterday was the White House's budget and the president asking for more than $8 billion for border security yet again. Matt, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, look, presidents' budgets are what they want. Congress obviously has the budgetary authority, and so there's always a negotiation between the White House and Congress. It's not a surprise that he wants a continued funding for border security. We've seen just in the last couple of months the number of illegal apprehensions on the border has skyrocketed. There's absolutely no question there's a crisis on the border. Do I think he's going to get $8 billion from a House majority of Democrats? No, I don't. But I think he'll get a few billion again like he did in the past. So they have a chance to do that. This budget does balance in 15 years in 2034. It's better than never at all. I wish it was sooner. But it does cut discretionary spending by 5%, which is what he's tried to do for some time. So it does rein in spending. I think it cuts almost $3 trillion out of the budget over 10 years.
Wow. Well, some of that cuts, and we should come back to this later, but it's for education too. That's one of the things that we saw the Department of Education's budget. Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the questions is to what extent is education a federal responsibility? It's primarily a state and local responsibility. And so you look across all the agencies and say, where can you save money? Where can you cut spending? Where do you have duplicative programs? A 5% cut at a time when we're running trillion-dollar deficits across our departments seems to me to be pretty reasonable.
Okay, and so let's first talk about that border stuff. You know, I think where it gets stuck for the president is when you talk about the wall, because most people would agree we need to spend some money securing the border.
I think there's no question that people believe in border security. The question is how we need to do it. The president keeps coming back to his wall. The problem is that most immigration happens by people flying here and overstaying their visas. No wall is going to stop that. So when he's asking for more money in his budget for a wall, he knows it's not going to pass. That budget for him is a messaging document. What he's trying to do is send a message to his voters that I believe in these certain values. By the way, some of those cuts that he's going to make in order to get that money is to Medicare. So now Mexico's not paying for the wall, Medicare is paying for the wall. That might be a message that's lost in the details, but it's certainly one that voters would care about and are going to remember when it comes to actually do something about this.
Do you think those cuts will stay that way? I mean, this is just the White House proposed budget. It's not the end-all be-all, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the starting point, and Congress now has, till the end of the year, till September 30th, to pass a budget, pass appropriations bills, keep the government open. There is going to be another showdown around mid-September for border security funding, and Pelosi was able to say we're not going to negotiate at all on the last shutdown. On this one, she's got responsibility having control of the House. So, no, I don't think Medicare cuts are probably going to be part of it. Democrats wouldn't sign off on that. You have to get something past the House, past the Senate, and get the president's approval as it relates to appropriations bills.
Yeah. One last thing on this budget, though. The budget deficit is projected to be $1 trillion. For a Republican Party that has talked about spending for so long, it's disingenuous to put out a budget that actually acquires that much debt. The other thing to factor in here is that our trade deficit over the past year has spiked by 77%. When you put those two things together, you got to wonder, does this White House really understand budgeting and financial math in general? You would think a guy with a business background might, but maybe there's other questions to that business background too.
But to be fair, he didn't create this $1 trillion deficit on his own.
It's his budget. His budget. He has the power to put out a budget to decide what to do, and what he decided to do was include something that has $1 trillion in projected deficits. That's on him.
We had massive budget deficits under Obama as well. The national debt doubled over his 8 years in office. Part of that was paying for Iraq. There were other issues. Look, both parties, I think, are responsible for the fiscal responsibility we're seeing in Washington. Republicans, I do think, particularly in Congress, want to do something about the budget deficit. We haven't seen Democrats express an interest in wanting to do that. I hope they will in the future.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Austin right now. South by Southwest, everybody's talking about it. And one of the things that were a lot of politicians coming to South by Southwest. There was a town hall on Sunday. What do you make of them coming and trying to get this younger demographic?
Well, first of all, I think it speaks to the fact that South by Southwest has become a global event, and people recognize the power of what happens here in Austin every year, and they're coming to it. And that's the thing that we should all be very proud of. As far as these speeches go, look, it's basically, you've got all these different tracks of South by. You've got tech, you have education, you have film, you have music, and now you essentially have politics. And this is a big part of it. So I think you saw some stars emerge. Pete Buttigieg, I forget how you say his name, but he's the mayor of South Bend. Had a very good reception here in Austin this week, and I think it's been good for a lot of candidates that come through. Julian Castro spoke at an event that we sponsored on Sunday. Beto O'Rourke premiered his film here at South by. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, lots of other names. Did any Republicans come?
We did have Republicans here. John Kasich was one of the ones who was here.
Yeah, I mean, he is not clear whether he's going to run or not. I would guess he probably won't. You have the former governor of Massachusetts, Bill Weld, who ran as a Libertarian for vice president last time, who was talking about primarying Trump. So we obviously didn't have the president or vice president come here. But sure, I think it's a great thing that you're having national political figures come here, answer questions. The track on Saturday and Sunday that the Texas Tribune was a part of had hour-long conversations. It was not sound bites. I mean, they got really in-depth into issues. I think that's a great thing. Great thing for Austin, great thing for national debate and the national discourse.
Yeah, I'd like to see more of it.
Yep, absolutely we would. Well, we thank you both for joining us here this morning. Of course, if you want to see this interview, it'll be uploaded onto KVUE.com right